Hello and welcome to the 6CW Carnage podcast, brought to you by Harlequin Productions. Without further ado, let's get on with the show. Hello and welcome to 6CW Carnage. I am joined by my co-host, Paul Derbyshire.
Evening, gents.
Evening. And we also have two special guests on tonight. We have Chris Wilkerson from Creative.
Hello.
And we also have Marky.
Hello.
Also known as Max Adamson.
It's because you introduced me as I had a mouthful of food. And someone would say that's my fault, but they'd be wrong.
First of all, I'd like to say congratulations to Chris for the Gateway to Glory win.
It was a hard choice, but I booked myself well.
It's Triple H levels of awesomeness. So, I believe we are going to roast Chris today, so let's start with some questions. Paul, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start with a good question. How did you react, Chris, when you found out that Robin Reborn was going over?
I questioned it, and it was. I think it was interesting because we were certainly not sure of what we were doing, as much as people seemed rather sure that we had one winner for a long time, except for those who were following their hearts rather than their heads, and. It wasn't something I'm thinking. It was almost. I was slightly uncomfortable, I think, more than anything, because there is a possibility sometimes. And I don't know if you've noted this, but with the members sometimes there's a possibility for meltdown, and I just worried that the backlash might come my way. But thankfully, that was saved for something else.
Okay.
I'm sure Pete will talk about that later on.
I have my tongue firmly planted in my cheek, which is exactly what Marky did to me when we were in London.
There was a lot of backlash at Day of Reckoning. Chris?
Go for it. Go on. You're dying.
No. That comes later. So, in your opinion, why was Reborn picked above the 29 other men? And that's from Liam Wood, so he's putting you on the spot.
I think there was a part of it that was because we'd gone a little bit Roman Reigns, I think that had been. I think JJ and Paul, and that shows how long that had been set up, had probably looked at Thunder winning, and I suppose it was probably written so that was possible the whole time. And I think I came in when I first joined. The first thing I said was, "Does Thunder have to win the GTG?" And that's not a discredit to him. I like Mike McCulloch, I believe, Thunder perfectly, reasonably well. But it was just, there was that kind of sense of this is where it's going. And whilst the argument back and forth was basically a good story, a predictable story can be a good story. We also possibly thought maybe we could try something different, and then we had to we wanted a face to win. Yeah. Mainly, so we were, it wasn't that a heel was impossible to win. We could have had certain different scenarios happen. I think a heel winning probably would have been then putting things in favour for different main event winners or title match winners. So I mean, everything was kind of up in the air to that respect. But I think it was mainly because one, I can trust me to promo, as I know I promo. Although I'd actually gone a little bit quieter since joining Creative, because I was a little bit worried about whether I should be having a character or not. So I'd kind of gone with using the kind of feud that we'd painted as a reason to kind of duck away a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then it was also positions of the possible faces. I mean, Dicey's obviously a very popular face, but we'd been telling a story with him that was kind of he's veered towards a different area, and he's gone through a hellacious match and he's also meant to be doubting himself a bit more, I think. So to work out of that, I don't think we had time to work out of the story we'd begun to tell.
To sort of change things around.
Yeah, we'd have to have suddenly, I think, withdrawn him from the Extreme feud. Fit it in, I think. Or at least changed how he was being perceived in it. And I know that, like, at least JJ and Paul had been fans of Reborn beforehand. I think I didn't get a Red Arrow's kind of long run because of Jack Hurst. I'm pretty sure it was because Robin Reborn was the character that was getting the interest, and the dynamic worked because it almost helped Robin promo better rather than anything for Jack.
Okay.
And I think he's one of the more popular characters in that with some as well, of a certain ilk anyway. Do
you see it as sort of like a thank you run?
No, because I know. Well, I mean, we don't have anything, long term mapped out. So I could lose NOG. I could do anything. But I think it was making sure we fit the story whilst not being dull, and also giving it to someone who can promo. I wouldn't call myself the best by any means, but I'm going to be around to. I can write, thankfully, as I have a degree with writing, and it's not like I'm going to suddenly disappear. I don't think, as well, which is also helpful.
You don't think?
Well, it would come as a shock to me, and I'm me, so.
That's fair enough. Marky, have you got any questions?
You had to ask me what I was eating.
Oh, I keep doing that.
It's got to catch a time where you're not fucking eating, you fat cunt.
It's not PG then.
I just thought I'd tell the joke. I thought, how can I make this as horrible as possible? I was doing that for the barman you called Old Woman in London, and that was his final revenge.
Between the kids interrupting and the food, we have actually got another guest.
Well, that's fine. All right. Well, what would you like to... I suppose my question would have been changing the subject a bit, but I suppose I'll go back to Reborn.
Okay.
Why not Hurst?
Because Hurst just isn't the stronger character of those. I mean, I like Hurst a lot, and I think there's potential for some really interesting stuff in there. But I also think that when you paint a character who is meant to be all about the pride of Britain and loving the UK, and we've had faces win the UK Championship, and Hurst hasn't. I think it maybe shows that he's probably not connected as well as others.
Yeah.
Okay. Paul?
Yeah. Just about like the returnees and did they get in touch with you, or did you guys get in touch with them? How did that come about?
I personally don't know what happened with Marsh and Bull. I think there'd been conversations. I don't know if Marsh came out and emailed and said he was interested, or Paul had approached him. I know Paul is constantly talking to people and stuff like that. Whereas for Cassius or ED, that was as much a shock to you as it was to us, to the point where the kind of flurry of conversations we had where we were kind of going, is that him or is that Marky being a dick?
Still might be Marky.
It still might be Marky.
It still might be Marky.
I thought all of you were me.
Well, yeah, I know, that's the depressing part of this podcast.
I'm just the same person.
That's not even being recorded. It's just a conversation you're having. Your kids dressed up.
Can you reveal, apart from Robin Reborn and obviously Thunder, who else was in the running for the win?
Christ, who wasn't in the running for the win would be an easy question in many ways. I think, there'd be the obvious. I mean, Josh was there, Adamson, Grace, Woods. I think Cassius is someone who Matt and Paul especially have faith in, and I've been impressed since promo 1, basically. So actually, it wouldn't have been entirely impossible for him to have won. I think you know, everyone in the Extreme match, well, the main three. I mean, Costello, whilst one of my favourite characters, M, has had life get in the way of CCW for quite a while, so not so much him, but the three Extreme guys have all promoted well. There's a tag division that's got people. We've got people now across the card who have history as well. I think whilst Paul went to sleep straight after the 5 minutes in which Steele was in, Steele has his. I mean, Steele, Mike Hill, they have history. You could pull a story off. It would have to be good, because it could really flop, considering that they haven't been built up as much since. But you could build a story with so many of these people.
Yes.
So, I mean, if Matt had come in and gone, I've got this cracking idea for Mike Hill, after the initial, but really, we'd have then, discussed it. And if it had been the better idea, it would have gone on.
I'm going to go there. Because I know Marky's got a question about a certain guy. So, what about Man Mountain Mike?
Man Mountain Mike is the reason I forgot to write Cameron Faith into the into the Gateway to Glory. So, if anyone really wants to have a problem with Man Mountain Mike, it's Nay, I guess.
The UK champion.
Yeah, I knew I was going to forget someone, and it just happened to be Faith, and it will be worked in eventually, and I do feel bad about it, but I think he probably is. I think when I was looking for number 5, Man Mountain might be interesting. I think the problem being that he's so ridiculously big that now you almost have to weaken him straight away. But it was meant to be I think Thunder got rid, didn't he?
No, Max Adamson.
Oh, I changed it. I changed that the day before, in fact. Because I was looking at elimination numbers. And it was meant to be a kind of a show of. I wanted it to be a face, and I wanted it to be someone who could be, reasonably tired.
Yes.
And it would be a show of strength because they've eliminated such a big man.
Is Max Adamson the Hulk Hogan of the mega stars?
Oh, he's the racist one. And I've heard that the Max Addison has a 10-inch penis, but Marky doesn't. So.
Okay. So when I created Man Mountain Mike, I went to Paul and I said, look, I'm just going to create this guy as sort of like a monster heel. Instead of having like jobbers that don't promo, sort of giving people somebody to promo with if they've not got an actual feud at the minute. What is everyone thinking around Man Mountain Mike at the minute?
Are you taking him seriously?
Am I taking him seriously? I don't see him as somebody that is gonna go for the world title or anything. I'm just writing comedy promos. I want him to be that guy that sort of like Rusev and people like that go over little guys, and then somebody big comes along and just goes over.
Kind of like the other two. Kind of like somebody's first feud. They can go in against Triple M. A way to introduce somebody against this 7'5" guy who's going to outpower them in every aspect.
There is the Swan, obviously. Okay, Marky, so go on, ask your question about Man Mountain Mike.
Oh, kind of half of it's already been answered. Is he a serious character?
He's not sort of. There's no ambition from me to take him anywhere.
I can tell you that from my point of view, because in my mind he's an extremely dumb person, so I was going to make him do something really dumb, like get out to get something. But that might just be my view of the Scottish. I know.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just writing him, comedy. There's some fourth wall breaking with the whole Swan and the flying poo. It's just a bit of a laugh, really. It's just something to keep Ed busy. Yeah. Man Mountain Mike, Aaron Heath, Iron Man match.
You should just make him go on an anti-drugs campaign. See if we can finally talk some sense into Ed.
I've just had a live question from Ed.
Hang on. I'll finish my question.
Does he beat the Swans? What's your question?
Well,
that was your. Wait, do you think there's more to come from that?
the question about Man Mountain Mike.
Having seriously discussed Man Mountain Mike for about 5 minutes now, you think that we should be making sure we go into more? I don't mean down, but
Yeah, I do.
if I was to have a big conversation about what did your character, because I wouldn't go Man Mountain Mike's the one.
The question was, is he now ruined, seeing as one person picked him up and threw him over the top rope?
I think there's more to come from that. I think
Just the sort of thing where...
Don't think that.
maybe more isn't going to come, but it just seems the sort of thing where you got a 7'5" guys coming in. It would be the sort of where 4 or 5 blokes, maybe more, get rid of him, and then at least he's got something that makes him look strong. Straight away, debut, one bloke picks him up, chucks him over the top rope.
Realistically,
As well.
realistically, right? You've got Cerberus in there, you've got Joshua in there. They're two people that, the promos are very good, and they both look strong in the Gateway to Glory. So in my eyes, obviously, having Man Mountain Mike do the same, I think it'd just be a bit too much for that Gateway to Glory.
The same. You've just been eliminated by 5 or 6 instead of 1. Would have done the job.
Well, that's the question you're going to ask Chris, really. I mean,
I will not give you any sort of bonus for your character market. Whatever you.
I know. It's my character that got the benefit, but it doesn't. Just say, was it necessary to make it one person?
I think the problem is also it's a kind of a it's what you do in rumbles and stuff like that. The big guy comes in, so we all team up. But actually, if you in matches, they get knocked over. One person can do that. One person can beat someone big. And if you're someone good and someone who's meant to have a position, you should be able to do that. I wouldn't have done it with Perez.
Aaron Heath.
I probably wouldn't have done it with Reborn because he's not meant to be strong. Max Adamson is based off what's his face, isn't he?
Mason Ryan, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean Mason Ryan's fucking huge. The only mistake I really felt like I made in that match was having no idea what Z was like, so just assuming he'd be big. Because again, like I said on the chat, you can't get told off for thinking someone's strong, was my theory. So if you make him look strong, at least they're going to go, oh well, he just did something. If I'd made him look really weedy and smart, and fast, and then he'd been 7'2", it would have been a bit dumb.
No, I agree with that. Got a live question from Ed.
Already doesn't need to be answered. I've seen it. It's so Ed Kent that it doesn't need to be worried about.
Okay. Does anybody feed the swans? Is my question. No. You're
not meant to.
Okay. Could you see a feud between the Queen and Man Mountain Mike?
The only Queen I can imagine him feuding with is
Percival. No, I do have a feud idea that I might.
If that doesn't give an idea of the status I consider Man Mountain Mike to be at.
Okay. Enough of that then. Paul, next question.
Yeah, I've got a question. We're past Gateway to Glory now. 2017, have we got any early front runners for that? Anyone got any suggestions?
2017 for Gateway to Glory.
Yeah.
I can discuss that with the exact amount of knowledge you lot can.
Man Mountain Mike.
Man Mountain Mike, big gear build.
He's got to be worth something to creative before they can give him a build.
We've got a year to do it.
Well, it's going to be impossible to eliminate him because I now know that we can only have him eliminated if there's 22 men trying to lift him. So.
22 men.
And nobody gets eliminated until that point. Gone.
Okay, so Gazzy D was mentioned quite a lot in the Facebook chat and on 606, and there were a few sort of teasing tweets here and there. Was that ever sort of brought up with Gareth and?
Yep.
Yeah.
Not with Gaz, but we definitely discussed that, especially when we were looking at faces. We thought that would definitely be a big moment. I mean, I could have imagined the reactions would be. Well, the problem is, I just imagine the reactions that Ed's going to give, but it's too easy to make Ed mark out, so it doesn't really count. But yeah, no, it was definitely up there as a consideration, and but I wouldn't want to throw anything out there. If we're not going to shove him in without our seeing Gareth first, that's for sure. Because I don't. It's not something I'm a fan of personally. I don't think. Whilst I think we have to have a certain amount of control over where feuds go and kind of some character development, because we're writing all the stuff. At the same time, I don't think you should ever do something that's really. If you don't want to promo someone and suddenly come back in, it's just unfair on you, isn't it? Because most people want to, show the respect to do it and show the respect to everyone else to try and put the effort in. So you're kind of forced to do something you don't want to do.
Yeah.
So around that, with JJ's tweets, was it tempted to bring JJ back instead of his new character? How did that come about?
JJ didn't want to bring his old character back. Originally, he was going to. That's good for about this. Originally, he was going to come back as JJ. Oh well, I don't know if he originally was. He would.
Chris, you just broke up for about 30 seconds.
Yeah, you broke up then. Didn't hear that.
That's annoying. Where did I go off? Well, basically, JJ said JJ doesn't want to come back as JJ. Basically, and he doesn't seem to think right now there's much to it for that. He originally was going to come in with his new character under a pseudonym, so there'd be kind of less focus on him and pressure of people's older feelings towards how he promos, and we all know he knows what he's doing. But I think that he felt the honesty was there, and it's just easier to be a part of the community when you do that.
No, that's fair enough. Fair
enough, yeah.
I'm looking for him to bring Joe Fraser back for Engel to sort of play off at some point, but the new guy looks really good. Cassius Z asked you a question on 606. I don't know if this is like a dig or something, but it says, "Is Reborn American or what?"
I can't remember from my thing. I give him a kind of trying to be. You can show that I'm not young and or hip anymore by the way I use him to talk, because he is what I imagine young and or hip people talk like. But I can't. Honestly, I'm just going to look at his roster page now and see what I did. What did I give him as? No place of birth. So that's annoying. He might as well be American. We don't have many Americans.
We've got Scottish, we've got Irish, we've got Engel that's sort of like Irish, French, German / English, but
we've got. I mean, it doesn't really matter if he wants to promo with him as being an American. Then why not? If it gives him some fuel. I mean, I'm feeding his way back in anyway by putting my hand out and letting him do it. But that's just a slight dig. I don't really mean it. But if it fits, it doesn't really bother me. Especially as he's asked, because he's asked, he can decide as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
As long as American or English. If he comes in and pays him as an Afghan, I can't really be bothered.
we had Cerberus in a burqa.
Yeah, Peppa Pig burqa.
Peppa Pig burqa.
And those boots.
I think the extreme promos at the minute are a little bit of I don't know. What's the word? Parody sort of thing, based on the situation at the moment. Marky, have you got another question?
No.
No? Okay.
No, maybe. Well, the problem is, I think everything's been answered as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not. Other than asking sport, it's not
about the whole. Everything about the pay-per-view has been answered for you.
Everything that you did without spoilers, I mean.
Okay.
I've got tons of figures I could tell you.
Yeah, I know. We are going to get into that.
As I told Pete beforehand, I have a story that I gave to Matt, which is not to downplay what Matt has done, but I gave him a story of. I gave him the order of entry, the elimination order, and a reason behind every elimination, and the story it was telling. So, I mean, as long as I cut out some of the stuff that's probably not acceptable for me to have said out loud, and I make sure there's no spoilers. I will happily go through it.
Okay, then why was there a reason behind Aaron Heath being the one to eliminate Adamson?
Yeah, I think that was a case of. I think there's probably potential in that feud. I think Heath is going to go in areas where it would suit that as well as original, but at the moment considerations, he would kind of go in that kind of way, and it's also that kind of new and old thing where it's kind of mixing, what has happened, and mixing kind of names that have got more in the past, not in the past, but have a past even. Sorry, just sign you to the history books already. So it's kind of experience versus the inexperience in a way, and it was also, the fact that I thought it would be funny for Ed to eliminate you. But no, it also gives him some credence. You're, a former world champion of recent times, and a big deal still. And not still, sorry. Steel's not a big deal, is it?
No, not at all.
So, yeah, it was kind of...
Gets eliminated by Scorpion.
The problem is I can't find the exact part where it happens.
I've no issue with it being Ned. I've just been, was there any future with Heath and Adamson? But yeah, maybe down the line there will be.
Yeah, I think I had it as a kind of almost like because I think there's something in Heath that reminds me of Adamson as well. So it was that kind of not a protege as such, but it had that feel of making sense character-wise, that there was there's some sort of link there. I mean, that's why I can't remember if it actually got written into the match or not. I had it with Heath kind of slapping around Ryu at one point, being that kind of dickhead heel who slaps people in the face and tries to wind them up being cocky. That's then when I had him eliminated. Kind of arrogance getting the best of him. So it was that kind of what I consider heel Adamson to be a bit like at times as well, to kind of fit in with that.
In truth, Marky, how are you going to handle the back and forths with Ed?
You'll have to be up on Sunday night.
We're just going to wake up Monday morning to a massive...
Planning a face-to-face meeting to discuss this, obviously.
No, yeah. I mean, it's not something that's going to happen straight away, but you would... If I could look through that card, and I looked through a lot of the eliminations, and there was a lot of things there that were planting seeds for whether or not we do it. It would be good to then have it. Because, at the end of the day, not everything you can think of in March is going to happen come September, but you give yourself the possibilities. The doors are now open for certain things.
Well, there is history. We've promoted against each other plenty of times. We had in 6WF there was Adamson and Kennedy over the undisputed title. Not that anyone really cares anymore.
I mean, that is what the problem. As you can see with my forgetting of Z, the problem with some of this now is I have to go up and I was having a conversation the other day with them. I was going, who is 6WF and who's old 6CW? I literally have no idea. And sometimes that reflects badly on me. Sometimes it helps me because I'm not stuck in certain, old feuds.
It's a bit of realism, because you wouldn't expect. It's a bit like talking about a rival. You wouldn't see that in WWE. They're not mentioning AJ Styles' past, are they?
Yeah, I mean, and we do. I don't think we ignore 6WF, but at times I suppose it's also not just doing the same thing over and over again. If you've had there's going to be feuds that we might not be able to match at the end of the day. So there's no point having a watered down version, and that's not a discredit to any of us. I mean, you've all enjoyed your time some people have enjoyed their time. Sometimes they didn't enjoy it so much, but maybe the magic isn't there still. Maybe that's why you broke up in the first place. I don't know.
Maybe.
Okay, Paul, have you got any more questions?
I'm sure I can come up with something.
Go on.
Let's talk about Mino and Marky's tag match. Let's talk about that for a minute. What's Dope and Zero now? Is there any plans for them? What's happening to them plans? Because they pretty much they've fallen a bit now.
Now, Dope and Zero are Cable's creation?
Yeah, Cable. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot about Cable, but even I know that I don't want to predict what he's going to do. And so if you can, by all means. But at the moment, it's, maybe we'll just see what happens.
Yeah. Are they going to go on the shelf? Are they going to go on the shelf now, or are they going to go on?
I think.
Are they on the? I can't really remember. I can't remember next week's card. I don't think they're on the card next week, but they'll probably be around. I mean, they can be used, I'm sure.
I think biggest show of the year. If people can't promo, then the people that are promoing should be more of a part of the show than say, the people that aren't. If
Cable comes back and delivers something, then he'll get a chance again. But
Okay. Did you and Marky enjoy that match?
I thought it was good. Yeah, I really enjoyed the ending. It came as a surprise.
Marky hated.
I'm just remembering why it wasn't a surprise.
Yeah. But apart from that, I actually predicted that in the chat on the VH2 website, because I mentioned it as a suggestion, and Twist said basically no chance. So he knows. Sorry, it won't be.
One time when you've got why not both acceptable for you to say, and he doesn't bloody say it.
I just thought it was the only way to keep both teams in anyway. It made perfect sense, even if it doesn't look good on top and zero, but someone's got to win, someone's got to lose, so why not have both teams pin them?
Yeah,
I picked both, yeah. You didn't pick them, I picked both. we won that match.
Yes, technically Steel pinned everyone.
Yeah, well.
Who do you think is going to win the titles, though? Do you think anyone's going to win the titles, or do you think not?
Honestly, I think whatever happens shapes what's happening at Night of Glory.
Well, that's a very bold prediction.
Let me finish.
There's nothing like sitting on the fence.
They're still predicting that Adamson and Grace are going to fall out soon. Obviously, if they win the titles, then they're probably not going to fall out soon. But if they were to lose and one of them blames the other, then maybe it will lead to a match between them two at Night of Glory. But if they win the titles, then they could be a fully functioning tag team going into Night of Glory.
I think it's gone too far now from them to win the titles. I think they've been built for a few months. They've been probably the favourite tag team. I think if they don't win it, it's a bit of a letdown myself. So I could see him winning. Maybe not next week, but I can see him winning it before the split up.
I personally think that Max Adamson will split from Anthony Grace and take on Man Mountain Mike at Night of Glory, but that's a personal preference.
Adamson and Grace faced each other last year at Night of Glory.
Yep.
Didn't they? And Adamson was the heel then, and Grace was the face then, and really, I don't see them repeating that. So if anyone's going to turn heel, surely it'd be Grace.
Yeah, I think Man Mountain Mike might have something to say about that.
Him and the Swan getting involved in a tag team match as well.
There you go.
The Swan has actually been
versus Man Mountain Mike versus a Swan.
The Swan has actually left the building now. The Queen claimed her Swan back. Okay, Chris, the final four of the Gateway to Glory. Was it picked in advance? And why would them four particularly picked?
No, it wasn't. I mean, it was a discussion, and Paul approved what I'd written as the story. But before I started writing said story, I wasn't told anything particular. I came up with the Crime Lord's idea was me, because I'm the dickhead of the three. So that made me laugh. I came up with that within an hour of the reaction to the last pay-per-view.
Okay.
So that idea came into my mind straight away. But otherwise, I think we're looking the final four. So we're looking at Wood, Thunder, Crime Lord, Reborn. If memory serves me right, I should know. I've read those words over and over again recently. I think it was just I think when it comes to strength, like maybe Adamson and Joshua, and if we had Adamson, then Grace would also be a contender. I think those were the other three we would have looked at in that story.
Okay, that's fine. So obviously, Crime Lord was decided from the previous pay-per-view because of the reaction. I had a question off of Darren with regards to promos.
A question in regards to promos, okay.
Okay, how are promos sort of factored into results? For example, like the final four for the Gateway to Glory, and other things.
You have to promo. You have to have promo in a way that draws in other people. I think you have to promo in a way that we like sometimes. I think it has to be that the three of us I liked that promo.
Are you uncomfortable on the toilet? Are you ever on the edge and feel a tension building up inside you? Do you ever think that this pipe bomb is going to pass and it's going to be a messy situation? Not to worry. With pipe bomb wipes, a messy situation is avoided. In an upward motion, you can be sure of zero mess and zero fuss. Built into these wipes is a fabric so soft that it can diffuse any situation. Once wiping, you simply dispose the wipe and your pipe bomb will be a thing of the past. Pipe bomb wipes. Better protection for those messy situations. Now in colours blue, gold and red. Pipe bomb wipes.
Hello and welcome back to the 6CW Carnage podcast. We just had some technical difficulties. Chris, I believe we were talking about promos and how they sort of affect how you sort of rewrite the show or change stories, etc.
I'm trying to remember what I said. I mean, promos obviously are influential and they give us ideas for feuds, for segments, for even results of matches. If it suits what's going to happen, if we can link it in, that's great. I mean, the example I brought up when I was talking before you cut off was the little flirtations of a feud between Wood and Crime Lord, which came from me reading something in one or both of their promos, not directly linked to each other, I don't think, just thinking that there'd be an interesting dynamic there, writing one segment, it having a reaction, and writing another because I liked the segment, really. And, if we want to, we could probably throw in a Wood v Crime Lord feud right now, because we've just laid a little bit of groundwork. But
because it works, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just because of something that just sprung to mind reading a promo. So yeah, I mean, you again, if you give us good quality promos, you're going to get rewarded. I mean, you might not get rewarded straight away, or you might not get rewarded in exactly the way you'd like to get rewarded. But I'd like to think that generally there's a correlation there, at least.
Okay.
I don't know if that's something that comes across or not.
I think that 6CW is a very story-driven E-Fed. You get a lot of E-Feds that sort of look at a promo. I mean, me and Paul Derbyshire were in one WWG
for a week,
and they sort of look at the promo and think, right, okay, so have they done this, have they done that, and then they sort of do the result based on that. But in terms of how 6CW works, I can see why, obviously, we look at the long term rather than... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose this would link in... This might be a good place to start talking about the Extreme match.
Yes.
If you are ready to. And I know there were certain complaints that effort was not rewarded, but I would look at it as being it's going to be quite a pivotal moment in many ways. It's a very big story development for three people, considering the path they're on as well. And it's... I mean, that's the thing that kind of annoyed me in a way, was that we could have just had Cerberus pin Costello. And really, what influence would that have had on Engel and Dicey?
It wouldn't have changed anything. I can agree with you on that.
And I think arguably, at the moment, we probably would have had Cerberus win if it was going to pick a winner. I think that would just have fitted best at the time. So,
I would personally agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, it's not that anyone was particularly better. I mean, it's just you're looking at what fits as well. But I think in many ways it would have just maintained the status quo. My feeling on the Extreme has been it's become a point now where we are once every few months we ask Liam how weird and twisted he can present fight.
Yeah.
And it becomes a case of when are the characters developing? Engel, as you made a point the other day after kind of a reflection as such, that what has changed for Engel being involved in that division? He's really kind of been constrained to being this kind of crazy extreme person, and Dicey's been kind of given this. Well, he can't really wrestle, but he'll scrap with some weapons. And for those two specifically, I think moving away from that will have more of an impact than a sick finish.
To be fair, Dicey's based himself on the Sandman, so it wouldn't be out of character for him to be like that for his whole career. But
yeah, but then does he want to? I mean, you've based your character and based your look on the Sandman, but does he want to be that forever? I think he's probably. At the very least, there is bigger places that I think we can go with Dicey if he's not. Would be my call on that, and I think there's bigger places we can go with all of them.
Okay.
The risk and reward could be that maybe there's lower places and it gets less interesting. But I suppose the feeling for me would be you take the risk.
Okay. I'm gonna sort of like go off on a little bit of a thing about it, and anyone can jump in at any point. That's fine. So the feud originally started as me and Cerberus. The finish to the Extreme match that we had, I think, was perfect for that situation. And we brought in Dicey, and I think the whole Dicey Engel sort of not love-hate relationship, but there's sort of something there. I think there's something there to sort of investigate. But I think as the feud has evolved, the promos have got better, and what's it been? 3 pay-per-views? It's been over. So we're talking 18 weeks worth of promos, and there's been sort of like 4 or 5 promos at least per week from that feud alone. I just feel that at Day of Reckoning, I didn't want anybody to sort of win the feud, but I just felt that there was sort of, if Liam had known it was a last Extreme match for a while, or at least that was the story we were telling, then he might have gone a bit more wild with it.
To be fair, he got told to. So there's certain, and that's no, I'm not saying that's what Liam said. I had thought about it in the time before. Should I tell Liam? And I thought I don't want to tell Liam because I don't want to have him completely out of in this kind of place where he doesn't get to know. He doesn't get to have shock reading the show or interest in what happens. And I think the blow off to this will be far more far-reaching than the results. And I also don't think the feud is technically over, but it will become something completely different. And you've got to keep these things fresh in that way. And I think the eventuality for us is bigger than a winner. It's more just, I think it gives everyone a reward rather than say, looking back and thinking, well, where does Engel have to kind of keep losing? Does Engel not try to win matches anymore? Does Dicey just is he just someone who picks up bottles and smashes people over the head with them?
Yeah.
And I think you've got to try and challenge people as well to find that depth.
Yep. I made a good point on the Facebook chat. I didn't take it to 606.
If you don't say so yourself.
Sorry. I made a point. Sorry, on the Facebook chat. with regards to Engel. I think he's actually only had, apart from pay-per-view matches, he's only actually had 2 matches. One of them was an handicap with Costello. Oh no, sorry, 3. I tell a lie, it was 3. He had one with Chael Kingdom, one which was a handicap with Cerberus against Costello, and then the one against Dicey, and they pretty much became glorified segments. Now, in my eyes, by pigeonholing somebody into sort of the extreme division, you can only really have that big extreme match at a pay-per-view, which means that all the while you're promoing before the show, before the pay-per-view, you're not promoing for matches, you're promoing for segments. And I do honestly see why we're sort of moving away from that.
There's something planned with the next few shows that does pay off as well. I mean, this isn't just a decision for the night. It wasn't to save us. It wasn't to stop it because we don't know who should win this. There was places to go with it. That if certain ideas and plans I have follow through, there's places to go with it that are going to last. That are going to have about at least 6 months of ramifications. If a result had done that, then I'd be very surprised. I think I'd be so surprised that I'd even ask at that point what Marky's daughter or son thought of it.
Well, they've probably got a better opinion than I have, but yeah, go on.
No, I thought I just heard you shushing one of them. So yeah, it's kind of there. I mean, I suppose in a way it's unfair to say this, but it's also that kind of feeling of just. As far as I know from the past, Paul doesn't usually flake on ideas. He does things for a reason. We've not really. I don't think there's ever been a time in 60W where we've shown, or they have shown before me, JJ, Paul, or anyone has shown a desperation to just kind of flop out of ideas because it's getting a bit tough. You could have had a Chamber of Horrors match at Night of Glory, but
yeah. I mean that was Liam's thinking at the time. He wrote.
I would. My problem to that would be to Liam. Where does one Chamber of Horrors match begin and another one end at the moment? Is there really any remembrance of the match, or is there just kind of someone did this through glass and God wasn't there viciousness? I don't think anyone reads the matches anymore with those. Well, not anymore, but sometimes I think you get through the matches and you're just looking for the spot and you're looking for how much should we be worried about Liam as he writes this?
He's trying to one up himself every year. Where's it going to lead to?
Exactly. There's not often times that Ed makes even slightly valid points, but he probably did make a good point in discussion with Liam about it's not really a match anymore.
Speaking of the spot at the end, the match obviously started in the arena, but do you think that how Jones came out saying, you're going to hurt the crowd, etc., etc., do you think it'd been better to actually have the spot near the crowd or in the crowd?
Possibly. I think there has to be an element of Jones being slightly over the top and not actually coming across as completely reasonable. I think you'd want, if this was Raw, you'd want the fans to be annoyed because they enjoy these matches as well. Yes. And that's also part of the thinking that we don't like Jones, so you're not really meant to 100% agree with him.
No, I agree. I mean, when the dust had settled, I thought, I need to write a promo for this because all three of us, we could have quite easily just turned around and thought, let's not bother this week because it's only going to be a short segment. I thought, let's promo, and I promoed Corporate Angle. And before I did that, I obviously spoke to Paul because I wanted to make sure that it sort of fit what was happening. How do you feel about the whole Corporate Angle? Did you like the promo?
I think it's interesting. I mean, you don't ask the other two, I suppose, a bit more, but I like that it's inspired you to do something with the character. I'm not saying you weren't. It's just, when there's change, generally change is interesting, even if it long term isn't something that will stick around.
No, I mean, I've spent the last sort of 6-8 weeks talking about rising from the ashes and flames and Armageddon and all that sort of stuff. So I thought, you know what, let's just change it up a little bit, because obviously we've had the pay-per-view now, the Day of Reckoning has happened, and now it's time to sort of move on from that and go on to Night of Glory. Yeah. Marky, do you have anything to add?
Well, regarding the Extreme title, I think I agree with Chris. I mean, it's not kind of proved him right, because I'll be honest, I did skim read that match, not for any other reason than we've seen it before.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
Yep.
And that's not a discredit to Liam, because I know he puts a lot of effort in, but it's...
There's only so far you can go.
People be cut open and it'd be different. So I kind of see that point of view, but then at the same time, I kind of see the point of view from Dicey and from Mupit about, there's a lot of effort gone into it. I can see why they feel like the nose is out of joint a little bit.
I think reading it live was disappointing, reading it live, rather than sort of, if I'd have read it the next day and sort of add a bit of time to it and just gone, yeah, okay, fair enough. But because I read it live, it sort of deflated me a bit, because the pay-per-view was very, very good. I think we need to stress that at this point. You know, the pay-per-view was very good. It was well written. The work that creative put into it is brilliant, and I've said that in many a podcast. I just think it was a little bit deflating for a few of us.
Yeah, I can get that on reflection straight away when you kind of think it, but I think it would have been hard in a way for it not to be, because I think there was. I think the way that you are some of I think you would have been disappointed had you lost. And I think
I never wanted like one person to go over. I agree with you that Cerberus would have been the logical step, but
I think the problem was, I suppose, that we could have had it stop because it was just they'd gone and left, or something like that, or people none of them could move anymore, or there was an insane spot and they were basically dead. But I don't think storyline it would have gone anywhere.
It wouldn't have worked. I mean the way it was done, perhaps you know, regardless of whether the finish was great or not, I think the match was okay. You know, Liam did a good job with it. In terms of the storyline, I'm looking forward to what's coming next. I think in terms of the pay-per-view, you had the Extreme title match, and then you had all three in the Gateway to Glory. I think maybe, I'm not saying for definite, but maybe you might have missed the trick in terms of having all three in the Gateway to Glory, because with how the Extreme match ended, you could have played with that a little bit.
I don't think it fits much with Jones's thinking, and Jones has some control over. The point I think we tried to make was that Jones wasn't just picking all of his people to come in last, and there is a certain randomness element, but there was also some parts that he had control over. I think it's a hard power line to play that, because if he has some control, why didn't he have all control? But
okay, but
I think that's a depth of reality thing, and I think I'd had the idea for Dicey and Engel a long time ago.
Dicey and Engel will be a dream feud in the end.
And I had that idea of Engel wanting to carry it on, like kind of going over the top of himself, because in my mind I think Engel's the more. I think that's quite clear. Engel's the more sadistic of the two, by a long shot.
Well, that's a definite, in all fairness.
Yeah. So it made sense to me that he would almost. And I came with this perspective I used to have with Ahura, that sometimes if you're building this character who doesn't always seem like he cares about success, I think it's better to have him not be kind of outdone by someone, but his lack of caring to outdo him in the terms of success. I used to have this thing where I'd rather Ahura just left a match than got pinned, or I was happy for him to be out wrestled but I didn't want him to be out-fought. So if he got just smartly out-wrestled and lost, that was fine. But if you were having a brawl, he was the strongest person. He was hard to put down.
Yeah, I mean...
And I think that's the kind of feeling I put with Engel, was that he shouldn't be... he wouldn't have been easy to get rid of, etc. But he's also trapped in his own world in many ways. So
yeah, I mean,
doing something that is character based.
Yeah, I mean, he looked before he did it. He looked at everyone in the ring and thought, you know what, I could do this. And then he sees Dicey, and he sort of like transfixed on that point. And I can see the story you're telling. I can see it. But in terms of when Dicey and Engel were in the ring. There was a moment when they first entered the ring together. Well, when Engel entered the ring, and they looked at each other and they smiled. And at that point, you could have sort of thought, "There's an understanding there." And yes, Mr. Sorry,
I'm not saying it's wrong by all means. Sorry, carry on.
I think obviously Jones has got this control over the match. Don't get me wrong, I agree with that. But does he have control over two of the craziest guys in 6CW at the moment? Does he really? Can he stop Engel and Dicey going outside the ring and throwing in some tables, some chairs? Just sort of causing havoc. And then, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's pipeline. I would say is my answer to some of these things. Pipeline, depending on which. But we've kind of got a couple of ideas thrown up, so I can't promise will go a certain way because there are considerations, but I think the pipeline has potential for that.
I definitely look forward to more matches.
I'd like to think at the moment the 4 or 3 of at least of the Extreme people are in one of the more intriguing spots.
Yes, they are.
Because God knows where they're going now, really.
Exactly. I mean, nobody knows now. We've got an announcement to come. That's going to be good.
And I mean, in many ways, because we've finished it on a bit of a damp squib, we now can't let you fade away. Because if we're giving you something big and it faded, you could kind of go, well, they let them have the payoff, they'll come again. But now, if we let you just fade, we are dickheads.
Now I can live with that.
Apparently.
Who's playing Pac-Man? Okay. So let's go on to the 606 site and Facebook.
Do I have to start this one? Do you not want to go for a bit? I'm talking a lot, and it feels like I'm just talking at you all. And but yeah, I think my opinion differs.
Okay, Paul.
Yep.
You're obviously a big part of the Facebook chat, as are you, Marky. Does being in Facebook and talking on Facebook affect 606 as a site and affect 6CW as an EFED?
My opinions on this, I do both really. I'm on the site. I try to go on every day. I'm on Facebook just because it's easier to go on. It's on my phone. Of course, I can get the site up on my phone, but there's just a quick response to some guys. I tend to use a messenger more.
Yeah.
I try not to for the 6CW stuff. Yeah, it'd be good to have it on the site, but I don't think there's not much of that on the Facebook group. It's more of just a group of guys having a laugh, posting gifs, and obviously you can't do that you can't do it on the 606 V2 website.
That's the best part of the 606 website, is that you can't post
you can't post gifs. Yeah. And you can't change usernames, and you can't change. And that's 50% of what the Facebook chat is. Just
I think
changing usernames and group names.
I think 606 is a very good shelter from Ed's little drunken tirades, because obviously he's got to access the 606 site and then get to the forum, which is good. Marky, what do you feel about Facebook and 606?
Well, like Paul, I use both a lot. I think as long as it's kept. Facebook group chat is just for around and the websites for the actual 6CW stuff, then there's no problem. But not only is that obviously not the case, because people will then just start talking about 6CW on the Facebook chat. You've got Vince, Cassius, and you got then Cameron and Faith, and then you got dicey. They're all and Marsh now back, and it's kind of like I suppose like they had on 6WF, where it was constantly the talk was like a chat group. So,
what the hell was
What
that?
was that?
I think Mark is trying to play the didgeridoo or something.
Just drove by.
vibrated because I got a WhatsApp from my wife.
Oh, that's fair enough. Are you on the phone then?
Sorry?
Are you on your phone?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, my point of view is this: I don't work at a computer. If I want to speak to people about 6CW, I can quite easily. I've got a chat head on my phone. It comes up 6CW. You know, I just click on it and I can write whatever I want to write. Yeah. If I want to go on the site, I've obviously got to go onto the site, access it, and then I've got to write a message. And if somebody else writes a message while I'm writing it, then I've got to then view their message before I can send my message. And it might only be sort of, you know.
You can turn that off, by the way.
Pardon?
You can turn that off.
I'll have to have a look at that, but it might only seem like niggling things. But then if I want to see if I've got a reply, I've got to wait for an email to come through saying that I've got a reply. Then I've got to click. To me, I can just go on Messenger. I'm not saying that I don't use the 606 site. I'm on it pretty much as soon as I get home from work. I'm on my laptop and I'm on there. I don't always stick around on chat, not because I don't want to, just because I don't always see a point in jumping into the conversations. But when I'm at work, which is pretty much 24/7 at the minute, it's just easier for me. And that was my argument the other day. You know, some people, it's easier to go on Facebook than it is on the 606 site. Nothing to do with like trying to kill the site or anything like that. Just my opinion that it's easier for me.
I do. I think as long as there's people chatting on the site, and there's a few guys on there at the moment, and other people get involved from time to time. As long as there's a decent level of chat on the site, I think it'll be fine. Of course, if other people on the site are looking on that aren't part of 6CW, they want to see like a community. They want to see people talking, and that might draw people in. They might not be interested in wrestling, but they've seen a group of guys chatting and they think, right, I want to be involved in this. Obviously, if ever all the talk's going on Facebook, nobody's going to see that because they're not in there. So I think it's important to have some chat on the site. But as I said, the Messenger, it's stuff like some people might look at it on the site and go, these guys are a bunch of weirdos, I don't even want to talk to these people. I think it's just keeping the right balance. As long as people on the chat and it seems active, I don't think there's much to worry about.
I mean, personally, I don't think there is that much to worry about in terms of 6CW anyway. I mean, look at the promos already for the next Aftermath. You know, there's 15, there might be more now because obviously we're having this podcast, but there's 15 at least already up there. So in my opinion, you know, if you're joining an EFED and you see an active promoting community, then you're more likely to want to watch it, to join in, than if some people message here, some people message there. Chris, what's your opinion?
I mean, it was such a nonsense, that argument. You were both.
I know.
The whole thing was so much. Everyone had the same opinion, really, but you were just going at it from slightly different angles. Crimey's point was that we need to make sure people are on the site because it's good for the site and it's sometimes easier for some people. And that, you know, Facebook's fine, but just make sure you're using the site as well, which is what Paul has been saying since day one and what I've always said. And I'm pretty sure you'd agree that it's just, you know, it's good to do both. That was it.
I agree with that.
It really was it. And the point is kind of valid that we do need to have people on the site, and it's good for the chat. And sometimes it's also good for stopping people going off the wall straight away. I mean, certainly at times I wish that there was 45 minutes to half an hour between Ed and Liam speaking.
I think you're referring to the sin bin incident.
Yeah, the court. Let's have a look. Let's have some kangaroo courts.
The wrestling court was just like a piss take, to be fair. But no, I mean, like I say, in my opinion, the site obviously needs its attention, and I've been posting more on the site. I obviously promo quite a lot. In fact, I'm pretty much the first promo.
My favourite thing with the site is the fact that you don't really, when there's big questions, you don't miss it because you can come back on. And whereas I'm not going through 150, instances of shit that gets posted on that if I want to answer an important question. And what I would also give as a feedback to Crime is, don't worry, you're just missing out on a load of shit most of the time.
Yeah.
Most of it is just Ed being insane.
I think we've all had them moments on the Facebook.
Where we're off our face on Mandy at 4 in the morning because we can't get laid. No.
Okay, maybe not. Has Ed not got laid yet?
That's the only time that's good things getting wet's in the bath.
It's fine, because if I actually do go out with him next Saturday, I think it'll be. I'll just find him at a dancing club and he can throw 40 quid at a time away.
The thing is, he's more likely to get with you than he is with a woman. And you've got
fancy you are.
I said you've got bigger boobs than most of the women he gets to.
Well, after that amazing compliment, there are literally tsunamis of poo flying around my living room.
Yeah. But to be fair, she's had a long day. That makes sense to no one listening.
So Ed asked me to talk about Monsters Sink. Does anybody get that? Because I sort of read it and thought, what is this?
Monsters Inc.
It's been changed. It's now Monsters Sink, apparently, like NSYNC.
Who's Justin Timberlake?
Just tell him to fuck off. No one can keep up.
We're not going PG then. I'll just clarify.
No, I'm nearly 27 years old. I'm too old to keep up with that fucking stuff. I don't know what he's talking about. I'm too old. I'm tired. I deal with 30 kids all day. I can't come home and deal with him as well.
In terms of the whole going PG thing that's currently trending, I'm gonna sort of speak for creative here. I don't think the product is going PG. I just think that the extreme matches will be saved for special moments rather than every single pay-per-view have an extreme match, and not pigeonholing obviously extreme people into only having matches at pay-per-views, because that is the only way that you can do it. I don't know if you agree with that, Chris.
Yeah, I was completely distracted, but towards the end of it sounded right, so I'd say yeah. What else do I need to explain? Crimey's win made sense, although that won't stop some people being annoyed, I'm sure.
No, it made sense in terms of the storyline. I think I don't really like to name names. I just feel that some people are maybe a bit off with the whole he's not promoing regularly and things like that.
No, but I think he's been getting involved with the site. His promos are there. He doesn't. Maybe the site problem is he hasn't really been able to be dug into a feud as such as yet as well. I mean, as much as you guys do promo, I'm not. That extreme feud is also easy to get stuck into promos for, because you've got two other people at all times who are delivering stuff to give you impetus. I've struggled in my time at 60W to ever have really had massive amounts of back and forths. My Red Arrows spree was kind of in a time where I had maybe one tag team at a time around, and I had bits with Dubs, but Dubs is hard to get sucked into a back and forth sometimes with, because you have no idea what he's going to do or where he's going to be or what kind of stuff he's going to deliver. He's great. I mean, I love Dubs. He's the most handsome man in the world, as I've constantly said, but he is confusing at times. So yeah, it is easier when you've got that impetus sometimes as well. There's no doubt that other people bring out the best in each other.
I'm just actually looking through the Facebook chat because there were a few other things that got asked, but I can't find them at the minute.
I can't. I suppose I should really look at the results and see if I can remember what the hell happened at this pay-per-view. The Thunder one, I think, was reasonably obvious. I think, to be fair to Gazzy, Tyson isn't about, and you'd have to do a lot to say that anyone else but Thunder deserved that win anyway. And it's set up for the night. It would have been very weird in a way if we'd had that loss and then just let Joshua not do anything. I think you could presumably do it, but it would be a bit shitter. The triple threat, I think the double pin was based on keeping that going, and having a vaster tag team division as well. The time attack, I think, suits perfectly to both Heath and Faith, because Heath has got a direction we're going to go in. I think Faith deserves the title. I would put out there that Heath will get better booking if he can arrive before Sunday at 11 p.m. And I'm happy to have that stressed out there, because Ed almost needs to kick up the arse in that. And I think it was the twist was good. And if I was to blow my own trumpet right now, which I have too many ribs for anyway, I posted that well. I made that tense. I did good. Just nice. Maybe slightly too much in the false finishes throughout, and I do kind of agree with ED's thing. You don't have to go to the well so much with false finishes, but I think it just, especially with the structure, it helped. Perfect execution makes a lot of sense with the story that's being told with Reborn and Hurst anyway, where Reborn was going, and the division needing those heels to have a impetus point. I think Perfect Execution have a very good balance in their team. We talked about the Extreme, we've talked a bit about the Intercontinental. I don't think it would have made sense for Masters to win that so soon anyway, having kind of still just turned.
Is he a face?
So it's a bit of a tweener, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I don't think he's gone full face, and I think it's going to come down to what we talked about with Colt and see what he thinks and where it fits as well.
Yeah, I think the same discussion needs to happen with Liam.
Yeah. Oh God, we haven't made a Liam joke. So the face on the title.
Masters the new Liam Wood. No, nobody knows if he plays.
Yeah, the face won the title because Leon lost and Wood won. That one was very interesting, and I think I personally felt proved right. So I think Liam, he delivers a lot.
Liam deserved it. Liam deserved it.
I wouldn't say he's quite perfected the heel run he's got yet, but he certainly is doing heel promos now. Me and him are going to have a fight about whether he gets to do a tribute night book or not. I personally think he shouldn't 100% shouldn't do it, but that's my basis of classic heel character.
Unless it's just someone that's like bad of history. Then he could do a tribute and it'd be fine.
Yeah, the problem is I think even when you're kind of tributing someone, it shows that you care. Yeah, at least he does a Benoit tribute and he carries like a dead baby or something out of it.
The Fritzl tribute.
Yeah.
There you go.
Can you believe that that he came up with this Kingslayer stuff and hasn't actually watched Game of Thrones?
And that's all we thought. As soon as he posted it, I was like, I just watched an episode of Game of Thrones, and then it was like, oh, no, I've never seen it. I was like, oh.
I can't let that go. Is that Game of Thrones?
It'd be much better if they talked like that on the program. It's the Game of Thrones. No.
That starts in April, doesn't it?
Yeah, back end of April. I think it's 5 weeks. 5 weeks away now.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't express a fuck I don't give. If you want to know about Game of Thrones, read. Because there are books.
The books are better.
Yeah.
In all fairness, the books are better.
They're just very long.
You've got enough time to do this shit. You've got enough time to read.
True. I have for the moment.
And then the gateway. I mean, a gateway to glory wise, I could go. I mean, now there's specific things. If I look at the eliminations, we started off as a kind of Perez is probably lucky to have survived as long as he did. I wanted to see if I could get him to beat the record because
2
I
seconds.
I didn't feel like he wasn't going to have a moment just night. So you have to give him something to be interested. And Liam has progressed quite well for him. Albeit, but he has to also recognise that he's made a character who's kind of the Tinder tyrant. So he isn't going to win a title, a world title anytime soon.
I have a quick question about the Gateway to Glory. In the Facebook chat, there was something that said that Engel will not be forgotten after this Gateway to Glory.
Well, I thought that people would remember the fact that he'd walked out and not been eliminated, but it isn't. I'm guessing the momentum of what the night was, it kind of meant no one cared.
Yeah, I think that's what happened.
Yeah, I don't know why I take that as a compliment, because I think it means I delivered with that story and that Matt delivered with the writing.
Yeah.
To an extent that it wasn't, because there was enough going on, actually it wasn't a big deal. Whereas I think maybe if it had been a big deal, it would have been a sign of not a lot else has happened.
Yeah, I think although obviously the Extreme feud is big, I do sort of think if you make it a big thing in the Gateway to Glory, you take away from other guys. I do agree with that.
It was just I tried to have a reason behind everything. I mean, for Mike Hill, I wanted a little bit of a Cerberus rampage when he came in because I feel that's the kind of character he had. I wanted Reborn and Adamson to kind of have a game of one-upmanship at the start, where it was kind of, well, anything you can do, I can do better. The Hurst one, I thought it made sense for PJ and Perfect Jack and Hart to be dickhead heels and do that. And then I thought it would be good to have a throwback and remember that Perfect Jack and Dicey were such strong enemies as one time as being friends that fell apart, and that shouldn't be forgotten. And that helped me kind of also then give Reborn the chance to get revenge on Hart. And with Stevens, I think his future is going to lie in a kind of area where he is a brawling psychopath. And I thought the face version of him is Dicey, so they should have that kind of. I was basically envisioning the kind of way that Kevin Owens does those fantastic brawls, where they're holding each other's heads and just punch. I think he did it with Zayn and Styles in the Royal Rumble. That was kind of what the picture in my head. I wanted Bull to get an elimination, and frankly, Steel was going to have to go at some point. At least it was happening at that point, and it was going to stand out rather than just being another one who was thrown out by Adamson or Reborn. I wanted Masters to get on Cerberus because I think there's a kind of not fiction there, friction is the word, because of the kind of forgotten stuff. I wanted Phillips to make sure he got an actual elimination because I felt that he's been kind of pushed back recently, and I wanted Grace to go early because at that point I don't think we'd had anyone who would be considered a contender eliminated, and I thought Grace going at 12 would kind of wake things up a bit, and it also would give an impetus to Adamson. And then you see with the Adamson, the Phillips elimination, that Adamson basically rips him apart because of what he's done, and I think that showed a sign of loyalty that's sometimes hard to get with those two, and I think we have to remember to do both with them. Sometimes show that they don't get on, and they sometimes show that there is that bond there. So that was kind of the reason for that one. I wanted Marshall to get an elimination earlier, and I thought McManus suited because there could be a something there, and I think Z suited to eliminating Marshall because there's a history there. Engel and the Dicey stuff we've gone through, the only one that was nothing really at all story based, other than kind of maybe Adamson and Man Mountain Mike, was the fact that I just wanted to fuck Bull over, so I got Reborn to eliminate him. And I think like the exact quote of the story was, "I want to do this one, so fuck him." I mean, I'm stuck with that because I'm a bit of a tick. I mean, Cassius C and Thunder. I think that was Cassius C was becoming a bit of a big deal at that point, and I think Thunder needed to have he's getting eliminated by maybe the top face or who was going in at the top face, arguably. Leone and Masters puts Leone over strong. They have history. Wood obviously then eliminates Leone, they have history, and you're getting to that point where it's getting a bit finer now. I think you're starting to look at that was elimination 22, so at that point we had Costello, Adamson, Heath, Joshua, Wood, Thunder, Crime Lord, Reborn. Probably after Costello, all candidates to win. Heath was probably the new, younger hope, possibly you could win, and he pushed with it. Costello was eliminated by Heath because I think it was just a bit of a new heel against an old type of heel, and that's the same thing with him eliminating Addison. And I thought it would garner a reaction from you lot. And I do. As much as I was kind of joking around saying I don't give a fuck what you all think, I do obviously think about what's going to happen with the reaction. I thought at the time, Ed's character popping Marquis is going to get a reaction, undoubtedly. And the fact is, you felt compelled to ask me about it. So, it did its job in that regard. And then Crime Lord, I could have been eliminated by any of them, I suppose. It could have been eliminated by Face. I don't think I'd actually given Crime Lord an elimination up to that point, which is why I needed to do it, because you need to have a couple of eliminations to be a threat. And then Thunder eliminating Joshua was, that was very much tied to what had happened in the night, and how, also because I think Joshua not being part of the Final Four was probably a little bit of a shock at the time as well. My feeling was, with Joshua in the Final Five, most people would be thinking, so this is Joshua +3 for the Final Four, and whether he wins. I think there was also a chance for that to be a tease of Thunder versus Joshua as the last two, which was actually never the plan, but that would have been a potential idea. And then you get to the Final Four. I think, obviously I knew Reborn was winning, and I wanted the tension between Reborn and Wood to be there. There's other fast-escaping reasons why that might come into play or not. And I'm also trying to at times shy away from doing too much Wood and Thunder stuff, because I think it's become, I think you can make it become stale, it can become boring. We'll all just sit there, everyone's going, so when's the next Wood Thunder feud? And I'm thinking, actually, it doesn't need to happen soon, because we don't need to do one every year or every 9 months. So, I kind of think that there's a certain aspect of it that it was good to have them not eliminating each other. And then obviously the finish was I wrote the finish before I knew who won. Crime Lord is obviously I know there are people who I know who really like Crime Lord as a character. I think ED's one of those who just really likes Crime Lord, so he has that base anyway to be there. But I also thought it would get a reaction when it was being read, and in a way, it was good to have that, because I don't know if anyone thought he'd won or not. I wasn't around when it was read, but I presume at least one person thought we'd given him the win.
With regards to the result of the Gateway to Glory, it was done the next day. So in terms of timings, for the last sort of 2 pay-per-views, with the feedback, there has been a lot of comments regarding timing. Now, I'm on the boat of, there's a lot of work goes into the show. Real life comes first, and obviously, you can't help situations happening while you're posting the show. But in terms of like pay-per-views, would it? I'm giving you an idea here, which you can obviously discuss with creative. Would it be a better idea to maybe post a pay-per-view in 2 parts?
The problem was that actually the delay was in different parts of the show, because no one really writes chronologically with these things.
No.
My feeling was we could have delayed a day and put it all out at once, but the delay's not too. It's not an awfully big deal. I don't think anyone's really going, this has ruined the night for me.
No, they're not. No.
So I'm not taking that. It's perfectly fair to say, but I think it was also the fact that Matt had written over about 30,000 words.
Mm-hmm.
That Gateway to Glory went on for so long, and it works as well. And we wanted to deliver. It would have been great to deliver on time, and we were close. And Matt had planned to, but then he was just knackered. And I think he's right. It's just delay it for the morning. I don't think it actually hurts. If we'd got some of the other matches out earlier, maybe we could have. Maybe the fact that we did change ideas a few times, helps well. Thunder was in the running to the point that we weren't sure what we were going to do with that result, so made Gazzy write 2 endings to Thunder's match in case we wanted him to win or not. We didn't. So Gazzy didn't know come the point when he was reading, which actually was fun for us, and might have been a nightmare for him. But it was just to give us that chance to go until we could have gone into the day. We could have made changes to the day. I don't think the changes have ever been made on the day. I did write a segment.
That was actually another question asked. Was there any last minute sort of rewrites?
Kelsey's second point.
No, I mean, if something was really, if someone posted a promo that thought, fuck, I think the potential's there, and I think we'd like to leave ourselves with the potential. But I don't think it would be a good thing for us. I don't think it would. I think you've noticed in the show.
I think obviously if you write the show and then say the last match, you have an instant rewrite. It sort of takes away from the story of the show. I can agree with that. I think it was Twist that asked if there was any like sudden changes like as the show was being posted.
No, the only thing I did was I had this idea with Kelsey coming back, which probably doesn't mean as much to you, but for
I don't know her.
No, you don't know her, but it was kind of a year ago, maybe less. She was a character. She's kind of niece to Jones, possibly, or something like that. And I love her as a character. She's my favourite character of all of them. Of every character, she's my favourite. She's my favourite to write segments for. She's my favourite to just have. I think she's a fantastic character. And I'd had this idea of how we can use her. And I think Paul had been desperate to get her back in as well.
Let's talk about the future. First of all, Paul, Mark even. Had to get that one out. I'm writing the triple tag match.
Yeah, that was a punishment.
Oh.
Tell us the result last time.
Tell me the result.
There will be no spoilers this time around.
Don't post any more pictures.
And I will try and remember that you're the Mega Stars, not the Mega Powers.
Yeah, that's fair.
I can't expect you to get all the team names right.
No, I mean I do when I start writing, I do sort of get lost in it a little bit, and I had a problem with the was it at Ground Zero with the Dopant Zero match. I got a few names mixed up. I think Chris will be able to elaborate on that a bit more than I can.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
There was a rewrite there was a Dopant Zero tag match. I think it was Austin Stevens and Hikari versus Dopant Zero, and all the Japanese names just got mixed up and into a blur, and it forced a rewrite. No?
I can't remember, to be honest with you. Posting the shows kills me.
Fair enough. So, yeah, the future. I mean, obviously you've said, hang on with the Extreme feud. There's going to be some big things happening. Can you, without obviously revealing spoilers, sort of give us give us an insight into the lead up to Night of Glory?
There's going to be some really big shows. There's going to be some really big matches. I think there's going to be also ways of making sure we tease out feuds at times rather than just going, Reborn's going for this guy and this is going to be the other main event. I think we've probably got a bit of almost a surprise. Actually, we don't. I'd say one of our main events is going to be not as expected anyway. And how they get there, and there's going to be new things to establish. We've got new people as well. I mean, I want O'Callaghan, I want Anderson, I want Murdoch, I want Z, Scorpion, if possible. I want all of those people on the card.
Multi-man ladder match.
Yeah, I could just chuck in a multi-man ladder match, but that's WWE's way of just shoving a match on. I don't.
Ultimate tables match.
I think the WWE way gives everyone a decent WrestleMania paycheck.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the best storytelling.
No.
Even Zack Ryder's got a shot this year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I could give Perez a shot at something.
Are we? Why don't we push for a Man Mountain Mike Memorial Battle Royal?
Because he's not dead yet.
Yeah, I mean, I could happily.
He's dead in terms of creative.
You mean as in you never had a good idea for him in the first place, or that we?
Oh!
Don't worry. At least you're not a fat cunt.
If I are, he might find that it's working. So
Yeah, don't feed the troll.
Okay, if Chris, if you, where would you take Man Mountain Mike to sort of give him more showtime?
Backstage interviewer. I mean, we haven't had a cleaner since Blade left. Colour commentary.
I think you're really good as someone's bodyguard, essentially.
Yeah, Cameron Faith needs a bodyguard. You're both Scottish.
He's like a really tall Kevin Owens / Brock Lesnar, though. That's Scottish. Does he need to be a bodyguard for someone? He's got a manager.
Doesn't need to be, but at least bring it in the middle of a storyline.
It's going to be the best fucking thing Man Mountain might get, that's for sure.
Okay then. I'm gonna put it out. I'm gonna put it out to the 6 CW community. Who wants Man Mountain Mike to be their bodyguard? Okay, that is the talking point.
You know who I think's going to answer that with a yes. I wonder who.
So
Shit will be flying everywhere. Give to ours.
I am putting that out there to Ed. I mean the 6 CW universe.
Trust me, if you want that to happen, if the two of you conspire to make that happen, I'll write it. But it's going to be bad for one of you.
Okay. That is no problem. I'll get on it with Ed, and we'll sort something out. Chris, are you going to be taking part in the Extreme tournament?
I don't have the time.
Come on, man.
Do you see how much time I spent having to that? I got home at 4 o'clock on whatever day it was we posted, Monday, and 9 hours later, I stopped.
Look, Chris, this is what I'm getting at, right? Paul has just entered the Extreme tournament, which has took our numbers to 5, which means we now need 3 more people to make it a tournament.
Half of the roster's me, so we can double that.
It's not till June anyway, is it?
I know.
July?
Well,
I finish in June, so I could actually, if you delay it, I'll be fine. I can pop in.
That's fine. I will delay the deadline if you want to join.
Bring a Jory back, Chris. I ended with Brown.
Yeah. Fuck it, I'll do that. We can finally team up.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we'll end it there. I think we've covered some great points.
One last question.
Go on then, Marky.
Nothing. It was. You mentioned it with Ajore, and you mentioned it with Marcus Brown, and you obviously have got all Liam's characters. Question for Chris really is: would anyone's character be held back a little bit if they have more than one character?
I don't know. I think it probably does have an impact, but then I think Grace and Joshua have always had good slots. And I mean, Plague was interesting, and I think Ahura was getting good stories still when Reborn had the title. I think you're never going to find 2 world champions, I'd imagine, as the same person.
I think what Mark is getting at is
doesn't matter that he's Cassius Sin.
No, is Engel holding back Man Mountain Mike? Because if that is the case, then you know.
Oh God, I'd love to see you actually do that. Get rid of Engel because you want to focus your time on Man Mountain Mike.
I think that'd be probably the worst moment of 6CW history.
I don't know. Percy Person was a former tag team champion.
He deserved it.
Well, maybe.
I remember writing the.
Let's have wrote the match.
I remember writing the key segment with Percy Percival dancing to "I Got the Key, I Got the Secret," and just thinking, there's so much you could do with Percy Percival. I know he was a comedy character.
I'm still waiting for the right time to turn him, instead of a heel turn, a straight turn.
Straight turn.
like an overbearing, overly religious kind of straight turn.
Well, I was going to talk about the WrestleMania event that you guys are going to and I can't go to. You've got a walkabout in London, and we had a pub in my town, which was a Barracuda, which was like an offset of walkabout, and it was actually the same brand. It was just like a town version.
Can't have business now.
It was called Barracuda, and they actually the pub changed hands, and it now looks like Percy Percival's bedroom. It's awful. It went from massive sports, everything was like sports on the wall, and there was like 30 or 40 TVs everywhere, and now there's just like velvet curtains everywhere, and I don't know where I was going with that, but it just came to my head when you were mentioning Percy Percival.
How many times are you there a week? 3 or 4?
Only on Wednesday nights. That's game night in Chesterfield.
Right. Okay. Let me write that down. Yeah?
That killed that. But yeah, in terms of 6CW guys meeting up, obviously not everyone can make the WrestleMania, but Ed was actually talking about the summer. And as much as we sort of take the mick out of Ed, I think it would be a good idea to sort of maybe have a get together. I'm not talking cosplay or anything like that. I'm just talking, the 6CW community getting together. I could dress as my Mountain Mike. You just have to accept a shorter version of him.
But still some.
But yeah, I think I do think that needs to be arranged, and I think if we get together and talk about it over the next couple of months, I can sort some time off and save some money, and I'm sure everyone else can. And I think that is something that we should put out there.
There's too many northern. I don't mean disrespectfully. There's too many northern people.
It
means less chance of it being in London.
We should just meet in the middle, Birmingham.
Yeah, who wants to go out in Birmingham?
Birmingham out. Gosh, Shana it is.
It's Nottingham, which is better than Birmingham. At least there's a Hooters there.
Nottingham.
Nottingham is good.
I mean, if we can sort something out, I'm sure we can sort accommodation and all that sort of stuff out. I think it's a goer. We just need to sort of talk about it. But anyway, thank you, Chris Wilkerson, for being roasted.
So I need a shit for about an hour. This is killing me.
I've needed a piss for about an hour.
Stinks now.
Marky, thank you for being on the show.
Alright.
It's great to have you on. I know we tried to get you on the first show, but obviously I had to pay for your Skype phone bill, which I couldn't do. But
sometimes you got to pay to have guests on. You got to understand that.
I know, and the 6CW podcast will grow, and eventually we'll be able to start paying for guests. We are accepting donations. But Paul, thank you for being my co-host.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, I'm going to try and get a podcast done for next week. Chris, you're more than welcome on. Marky, the same. I don't think Ed is currently available for a long time, so it'll probably be me, Paul D, Chris, maybe Marky, and maybe Paul McCarthy. So, next week we'll talk about the build-up to Aftermath and go into detail a bit more on the actual pay-per-view rather than just arguing about it.
What I will say before we go is that Matt and Paul have put in so much fucking work lately.
I know.
And I can't but say thank you to them. They've been brilliant. I don't do much compared to them too.
Matt's always like that, whether it was in 6WF or 6CW now, he's just... You wouldn't know that he actually passes his courses at university. The amount of work he puts into...
And the standard of his writing. I mean, I'm surprised he does pass.
So I suppose it's credit to him for that part, but...
I
don't know. If he goes his course, there's only one reason why.
I think we can all say that the shows are only increasing in quality.
I know. I don't have to thank me though.
Chris, I think a few people might have been a bit perturbed by the whole JJ leaving, but I think it's gone from strength to strength. I think you've done the previous regime, a lot. You know, you've done well since that.
I'm a great person, Pete.
I'm not talking about just you, Chris. I'm talking about the team.
Oh, yeah, they're all right.
But Chris, I hope that obviously this whole roasting thing doesn't put you off being on the podcast again.
I have to be honest with you, I thought you were going to throw a strop at me.
No.
So
No.
The fact of the matter is, you've been completely reasonable, and I've not really had to get onto my back feet to defend anything. So it's not actually.
I think on the day of the show, or on the day after the show, when everything had come out, I think there were some tension from a few people. And it just built up and built up and built up, and you know, people confer between each other, and I sort of took the reasonable option and thought, right, I'm going to message Paul and just say, look, these are my concerns, and like that, you know, things got sorted, and that's
I
what.
mean, my advice to people would be to leave it a day each time, because it means, especially because Paul gets all the shit from it. I think Paul was pretty drained by the end of it. He'd kind of come back from this really long thing, and he'd got a lot of messages that weren't happening, and it felt a bit like, where's the kind of just, you know, nice one?
Yeah.
I think he had to tell one person to politely fuck off, basically, and I think it's probably lucky that. I think you can tell he's someone who's played high-level sport because he's reasonably calm, whereas I've probably just been like, just as you can see, I'm just like, fuck off.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to Paul, and I'm not going to reveal the whole conversation, but Paul basically turned around and said, look, you know, it might just be me being a bit sensitive over the whole, you know, we've just posted this show and everyone's on my case. And I think, you know, we should, as a community, just sort of sit back a little bit and think, let's just let these guys take our characters on their journey they want to take them on.
If Night of Glory is shit, then you can call back to it, I promise you.
Well, if Night of Glory is shit, then, you know, we'll have this podcast again and we'll bring it up. I think if we can sort of give a voice to it and sort of put it on a podcast.
There's nothing wrong with it. I think it's just maybe tone sometimes is the thing actually we're looking for.
Yeah, I think let's just do it on the podcast. Everyone asks me to ask you the questions. How about that? I think that'd work.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. But now I need to go and, you know,
poo.
Drop off all the black poo.
Okay, so thank you very much, guys. I will see you all again next week. Marky, thank you for coming on the show. I hope you can come on again in the near future. And that's it. Thank you. Goodbye.
Oh.
See ya.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to go.
Gotta go.
Bye.
Bye.